All right, in lesson 5.5, we're going to talk about the y-intercept of a line. When we look at equations in the format of y equals mx plus b, the number in front of x, represented by m, is always the slope, and the constant by itself is always your y-intercept. The y-intercept of a graph is the y value at which the graph crosses the y-axis. So if we're looking at a graph of multiple lines, and we start with this line right here, if we're looking at the graph of this line, where it crosses the y-axis is the y-intercept. This point is at 2. So the y-intercept of this line is 2. If we look at this line, it crosses the y-axis at 0. So the y-intercept of that line is 0. We look at this line, it crosses the y-axis here at -1, 2, 3. So the y-intercept here is -3. Okay, then you might be asked to graph an equation. So if we're asked to graph the equation y is equal to x plus 3, we know that positive 3 is the y-intercept. So that's our first point. We go to the y-axis, go up to positive 3, and know that positive 3 is the y-intercept. How do we graph a line from that? Well, here we know that the number in front of x, which is understood here to be 1, is the slope. So the slope is 1. How do I use that? I can change that to a fraction and know that that represents rise over run. So I can start at this point, I can go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And that is my line. So I've graphed the equation y equals x plus 3, and I have identified the y-intercept to be positive 3 because that was the constant at the end of my equation. All right, what is the y-intercept of y equals 4x minus 3? Without even graphing it, I know that the y-intercept here is -3. So if I were to graph that, I would go down to -3, and that would be where my first point on my graph would be. How would I find my next point? I would use this as my slope. My slope would be 4. I can write that as a fraction over 1, and I can go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1, and that would be my next point, and my line would look something like that. What's my y-intercept of y equals -4x plus 3? Y-intercept is positive 3. What's my slope here? Slope would be -4. So I could use 3 and -4 to graph this line. So if I went up to 3, and then I did -4 over 1, so that would be go down 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right 1, and that would be the line y equals -4x plus 3.